This single still frame you see here, as well as the image in the thumbnail of this video, are all it takes for Acerthorn to false DMCA you and possibly try to sue you, regardless of any possible context there may be for using this image, except maybe if you happen to be watching this video, as he'll still just blame me for it at that point. Acerthorn is currently suing me, Sid Alpha, Enclave Emily, and several others in an extremely frivolous lawsuit, and is intentionally putting undue burden upon us all as a result. If you want to support the legal defense, this link on screen and in the description of the video leads to Sid Alpha's link tree, which has 3 options for crowdfunding. Additionally, Acerthorn likes to frequently accuse us all collectively of doxing him, even though no doxing has been done. He had doxed himself prior to our interactions with him through tying his real name to his YouTube name in one of his prior lawsuits, as well as linking his guru page in his digital homicide video, where he offered services as a paralegal under his real name, as well as services making thumbnails for YouTube videos, using his own channel as an example. When he realized he doxed himself, he took down the guru page and clipped his video to take out the reference to the page, likely in order to continue his baseless claims of doxing. Both of these have been archived and backed up. So today I'm here to tell you about a very special individual, a galaxy-brained individual, an absolute titan of intellect, so clearly I'm out of my depth here. To give you an idea of the kind of god-tier intellect we're dealing with, well, there's so many examples to cite. Lawsuits against Google and Microsoft for $500 billion each, or Walmart for $600 billion, or attacking its father with a kitchen knife because the internet was too slow, or how he throws a shit fit anytime someone is critical of him, and even accidentally streamed himself half naked, making weird noises and ranting about wanting to kill someone.
Or I will kill you.
I sure hope I don't get on his bad side. I'm talking, of course, about Acerthorn, the most intellectual and in-depth game analyst you've ever had the misfortune to lay your eyes upon. Now, I genuinely don't know where to start here. There's just so much to cover. But I will give a bit of a warning now, that this is not the type of content I normally cover. I'm generally not interested in lolcows, and the only reason I'm doing this video is because of personal involvement in the situation. I don't intend to cover any other lolcow, and I hope the Acerthorn saga, at least involving me, is over sooner rather than later. And once it is, I'll do one final video discussing that everything has been wrapped up. I have talked about ol' Acer in previous videos and streams, but that was done more as a retort to his unending tism fits, and the fact he's currently suing me for over $450,000. As you will learn throughout this video, Acerthorn has quite a history both online and in the real world. Now, I don't really care to establish a clear timeline of events, at least for the early years of Acerthorn, as the exact timeline doesn't really matter. Instead, I'm going to talk about different events involving ol' Acer in a rough chronological order, meaning if something is slightly out of place, well, who cares? Now, a fact to establish immediately about Acerthorn is that he's the poster child of the Dunning-Kruger effect when it comes to the law. This is the main through line between most of the stories involving Acer. He just fucking loves to sue or threaten to sue everyone he thinks he can. He tries to wield the legal system as a bludgeon to destroy his enemies and get what he wants, which is hilarious since not only has he never won a single case, but the only demand he's ever won was some documentation that he was pretty much entitled to anyways. Like many people, he seems to have heard of these lawsuits that happen from time to time, in which people are awarded millions upon millions of dollars, while failing to realize that most of these lawsuits turn out this way due to extreme damages, such as permanent physical injury, death of a loved one, or extreme financial damages. Take, for example, the story of a woman who sued McDonald's due to a coffee being spilled on her lap. On the face, it sounds like a bit of a ridiculous story, but looking deeper into it, you find the coffee was far hotter than it should have been, and resulted in terrible burns, resulting in extensive medical treatment. This wasn't a case of someone being slightly inconvenienced and winning millions of dollars, it was a genuine case of horrible injury. Acerthorn has no such claims, but that doesn't stop him from trying. Any excuse he could think of, any inconvenience he experiences, is good enough reason to drag someone into court in an attempt to sue them for $6 gazillion dues. How could someone afford so many lawsuits? Well, he can't. He files every single lawsuit as informa pauperis and pro se, or, in English, he's too poor to afford shit, so the court waives his fees, and he's too poor to afford a lawyer, so he represents himself. Problem is, he's done this song and dance so many times that at this point, he knows just enough about the law to be an expensive pain in the ass. But he doesn't know enough to actually win any cases, unless he gets a default judgment, which seems to be a new tactic of his. Starting off with Walmart, he had applied for a job, but had failed a computerized assessment due to his mental disability. In response to this, he sent them an email stating that if they contact him in any way, they acknowledge and agree to be legally bound to the terms contained within the email, which the company would be required to settle all legal disputes with him. He got an automated response. A couple days later, he claims they accepted the offer as he had bought a gallon of milk with a check that had his full name and address on it, so Walmart absolutely had to know who he was. As if Walmart is a fucking hive mind, and everyone working there should automatically know that a crazy asshole was trying to sue them. According to Mr. Stebbins, since Walmart didn't accept the arbitration within 24 hours, he automatically wins regardless of the merits of the case and was entitled to an award of $600 billion. Oh shit, bro, I guess it's all over for old Walmart. A moron said you can't contact me in any way, shape, or form without being sued. Then he bought milk from them, resulting in them engaging him, and he automatically wins. David Stebbins is now the richest person in the world. Or he would be, if his mind-numbingly stupid plot didn't fail fucking immediately for being mind-numbingly stupid. Next up is Microsoft. His tactic here was to modify their terms of service and send it back to them in order to sue them. In much similar tactics as before, if you do or don't do this thing within this set amount of time, then I win everything forever. If Microsoft didn't terminate his Xbox Live account within 10 days, that means they accept his changes, including a forfeit victory clause, in which if they did not respond within the 10 days, he would automatically win $500 billion. David Stebbins even brags about how he had specifically sent the documentation not to the legal department, but to the regular mail, where the employees likely wouldn't understand the legal significance of the documents, clearly showing he was trying to game the system in bad faith. He also tried to sue Google, similarly, for $500 billion. You guessed it, another revised terms of service scam. He tried the same bullshit 3 fucking times and it failed each time. Then he cries on Reddit about the US court system being the biggest scam in the world. Think that's the worst of it? Not at all. In 2011, he sent the Attorney General of Texas a single dollar with a contract that stated that if the dollar hadn't been sent back within 1 business day, the state of Texas would have to pay him $5 trillion. Trillion. With a T. Now I'm sure you're starting to see a pattern already. Do X in Y amount of time. I automatically win, regardless of the merits. I deserve an arbitration award of $1 gazillion dues. If you do X, then you agree to arbitration with me. This time limit thing in particular is a tactic he still uses to this day, over a decade later. Probably because he saw it on TV, or in some other court case, where someone was actually ordered by the court to do something within a certain time the court likely would have determined to be reasonable. Acer, as always, was never reasonable. A single business day wouldn't even be enough time for the mail to arrive at the Attorney General's office, let alone enough time for it to be sent back. In all likeliness, this was intentional, similar to how he intentionally sent the revised terms of service to Microsoft's regular mail instead of their legal department. Acerthorn almost certainly chose 1 business day, likely because he thought it would be a guaranteed victory. Just for a point of reference, the GDP of Japan in 2019 was just over $5 trillion. It should go without saying that Mr. Stebbins wanted nothing more than to unjustly enrich himself, and at every point, he used the most disingenuous, underhanded, and scummy tactics to try to do so. It very much seems as though he had at some point read the end-user license agreement, or a terms of service of a video game somewhere, in which it said something to the effect of, by continuing to play this game, you agree to these terms. And I guess he just assumed he could apply that to the law to grant himself endless victory for absurd sums of money in court. If you read this email, if you accept this dollar, if you don't do X and Y amount of time, I win everything forever. It should be very clear at this point that David Stebbins sees the court system as his golden ticket. If he can just connect on one lawsuit for a shit zillion dollars, then he can live the easy life and use his money to, destroy his enemies. But he fails to realize that the court system doesn't work that way. While there certainly are abuses of the legal system, there are protections in place to prevent some brain-dead moron from just getting billions of dollars for no goddamn reason. You know, most normal people just buy a fucking lotto ticket. Additionally, he sued his parents twice. They had claimed him as a dependent on their taxes, which resulted in him suing them for identity theft of all things. He had also sued his father for breaking the written terms they had made for him to live in his father's house. You see, Acerthorn wanted high-speed internet, and I guess it went out one night for some reason. We all experience these issues from time to time. Maybe someone crashed into a telephone pole and knocked the lines out. Maybe, some other issue is happening. It's not clear, but it is understandable that these things may happen from time to time. Because Acerthorn's father didn't have the power to magically make the internet come back on, he stabbed his father in the face with a kitchen knife. Imagine giving your disabled son a place to live, and providing for him, only for him to assault you with a deadly weapon over slow fucking internet. He was later arrested and sued his father over the incident, including claiming that the father had cut himself with the knife in order to frame Acerthorn. Based on the information available, there are two possibilities. Either Acerthorn really did stab his father in the face over slow internet, or Acerthorn is such an insufferable cunt that his father faked an injury to get this crazy asshole out of his house. We're far from finished though. Let's take a look at his lawsuit against the University of Arkansas. You see, he was running low on his meds and scheduled an appointment to get more, to which he was 30 minutes late for. Because they told him he had to reschedule, he threw a shit fit, as he tends to do, and had said that this could lead to another Virginia Tech incident. He repeated this a few times too. Keep in mind, this was a mere 8 months after a student at Virginia Tech shot up the school and killed numerous people. Naturally, he was suspended from the university for this, and would be allowed to re-enroll in the fall if he had met certain conditions. He failed to do so. About 2 years later, he sent an email to the chancellor making demands for re-enrollment.
You're a hair's breadth away from getting sued out your ass. For the purposes of this email, I am not talking to the University of Arkansas. I am talking to David Greerhart in your individual capacity. Remember, since I am addressing not the UA Chancellor, but David Gearhart, that means you do not have sovereign immunity. On January 2008, I was expelled because your fucking inbred crackpot employees couldn't be bothered to accommodate my disability. They say I made a terroristic threat. That is fucking bullshit. I didn't fucking threaten anyone. You took it that way. So listen up, you fucking retard. You fucking inbred cocksucking piece of shit. I'm not asking you, and I sure as hell am not asking you kindly. You have 16 business hours. You have until 5 p.m. this Tuesday evening to do the following. 1. Override the student accounts office. That is why I'm talking to you, because if anyone has the authority to do it, it's you. 2. Remove my suspension. Make it so that, officially, I was never kicked out against my will in the first place. I withdrew on my own. 3. Allow me to readmit myself to the University of Arkansas on the spot. No applications, no fucking interviews, no jack shit. 4. Send me an email telling me that the above 3 have been accomplished. All of them must be completed by Tuesday, June 15th, 2010 at 5 p.m. Central Time. If they are not, I will sue you in your individual capacity and collect $50,000 of punitive damages from you. Thank you, and go to hell.
What a charmer! What an absolute wordsmith! Why wouldn't anyone want to do what he asks when he acts with such grace? He seems to think the court system is a magic fucking genie lamp to just grant him everything he wants.
Remove my suspension and rewrite history to say I left of my own accord. Just let me back in, or I'll fucking sue you.
Now obviously with the incredible victory streak Acerthorn is known for, of course they let him back in, right? I mean, he's such a reasonable person. Oh wait, no. They got a fucking threat assessment team together to determine how to respond to the email. They decided he would be placed under a criminal trespass warning to keep him off the property for a fucking year. Also, apparently what he was demanding them to do was illegal as well, though I'm not 100% sure on that. At some point during his time at university, he was called to the office of one of the doctors who worked there to discuss his conduct. During the meeting, he had told the doctor that he had a plan to injure his father. David indicated he plans to have his father in his room, at which point he would cut his father's forehead and take his blood to write a letter of forgiveness. David indicated he planned to have the occurrence videotaped and posted to the internet website YouTube. David indicated that thinking of the pain his father would be in and the screams he would produce gave him chills. David proceeded to make the physical motions of a person who had the chills while making this statement. David was asked how often he thought of this plan, in which he replied a response to the effect of, "I practically jerk off to it daily." What a charming and well-balanced fellow. In another incident, the mail clerk was away from her desk, delivering mail to some of the dorms, as they were short-handed that day. She had left a sign saying she'd be back at 3 o'clock, but didn't return until 3:15. Shock! Horror! When she returned, Acerthorn confronted her in extreme anger, swearing, ranting, and flailing his arms about, all because she was a bit late getting back to the office because she had a job to do. The court document even states this wasn't her first encounter with an enraged Acerthorn. She ended up making a report because she believed him to be a genuine danger to students and herself. David later apologized by saying, "I would never hit you, because if I did, I'd be suspended from school." You know, not because it's wrong to hit someone and cause them undue harm, but because he'd face consequences for his actions. Acerthorn doesn't care in the slightest about any undue burden or pain he causes for anyone else. He only cares about himself, and the only thing preventing him from acting out, committing acts of violence, or even harassing and doxing is the fact he may face consequences for his actions. If he thinks he can get away with it, or if he can justify it, he'll do it anyways. It's also in court record that he has admitted to having fantasies of kidnapping, torturing, and killing people who angered him. This same paragraph also states point fucking blank that rather than adjusting his own behaviors, he expected everyone else to change their behavior, and he tends to blame everyone else for his problems rather than taking responsibility for himself, something that has become abundantly clear to all of us who have to deal with his shit. By 2013, he had enough of the court system fucking him around and not granting him automatic victory in all his cases, so he in turn sued not just the clerk of the county court, not just the office of the clerk of the county court, not just the clerk of the Arkansas Supreme Court, not just the office of the clerk of the Arkansas Supreme Court, but the state of Arkansas itself as well. For this lawsuit, he demanded more than $3 trillion in damages for every day that the state did not file his complaint, starting April fucking 1st of all dates, in 2012. This document shown on screen is dated August 20th, 2013, meaning he was essentially demanding well in excess of $1 quadrillion. Unironically. Now let's just stop and think about the effects these lawsuits would have had he won. I mean, all that money has to come from somewhere. What impact would that have? Microsoft and Google having to pay out $500 billion each would be a killing blow to these companies. $600 billion would be a killing blow to Walmart. Now, I'm no fan of these companies. I understand the utility they serve, but they have many practices I dislike. But if these companies were to collapse overnight, we're talking literally millions of people worldwide out of jobs. Stores millions of people shop at for their daily necessities would be gone. The support network for one of the most used computer operating systems and one of the most popular consoles would be gone. The services Google provides would be gone. The impact David Stebbins' lawsuit would have upon the world would be extremely bad. What about the states of Texas and Arkansas? A state can't really go bankrupt. They would still need to pay the bill. This would result in the cost being pushed onto local businesses. In other words, he'd fuck over the entire populations of these two states and the entire employment base and customer base of these three companies, all for nothing more than maliciously enacted attempts at unjustly enriching himself, nothing more than pure personal greed. He has even claimed recently that tweets and Discord messages could be copyrighted too, because short poems can be copyrighted. He's literally just looking for any excuse he can to sue anyone and everyone he possibly can, because he thinks it will make him rich. I'm surprised he hasn't found someone to sue over his missing neck. Now, it's understandable that one might want a shit zillion dollars. You never have to worry about paying the rent, or fucking gas prices. And with that kind of money, all your personal goals and dreams would be well within reach. But most people actually try to work towards those goals, try to earn that money, and at worst, people gamble their lives away in attempts just to hit it big at the casino or in the lotto. Not Acerthorn though. Another very common theme with him is that he's a lazy cunt. He wants the easy path forever. He puts little to no effort into pretty much anything he does, with the exception of inflicting himself upon others fucking constantly in hopes he'll somehow connect on a lawsuit and get a free ride through life. The man is a parasite and nothing more. The court seemed to have recognized this, at least in his home district. They had had enough of his shit and put a limit on how many lawsuits he could file. 1 lawsuit for every 3 calendar months. Naturally, this didn't stop Acerthorn from trying. He apparently tried starting lawsuits in different districts and having them transferred to his home district, which didn't work out for him. He's now trying to circumvent this limitation by suing people through the California court system because that's where YouTube is located. More on that later. Now, as I said, Mr. Stebbins has also left quite the footprint online. He seems to have a keen interest in snuff and masochism porn, having made an account on Heavy R and having written erotic fiction on Light Erotica. Unfortunately for David, this is even more embarrassing than a green M&M. For instance, one of his stories deals with the highly erotic act of consensual wife beating.
Sweetie, I said with fear in my voice, are you a masochist?
She immediately began the biggest sob you can imagine, burying her head in her hands. I'm just gonna do it like a snake. Yes. Fucking filthy Frank. I began to back up until I hit the room of the until I hit the dining room wall. I just imagine him backing up for like 20 feet. It's not just any pain, she continued. It's only when you do... Oh, God. I want you to beat the hell out... I want you to beat the hell out of me, question mark. It's a fetish. I've had it ever since I fell in love with you, Dirk. Oh, wait, I mean Acerthorn. But I was scared to tell you, because I was afraid you'd leave me.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had a fetish for pain. Was I the one dreaming now? I said, what exactly do you dream of me doing to you?
Breaking my nose, she began, letting it all hang out.
Oh, baby, I'll give you the biggest beatdown you ever had.
Breaking my
Love
breaking
you,
my
sweetheart.
ankles, breaking a beer bottle over my head, caving in my skull with steel knucks. It makes me so horny when you show me how big and strong you are. I picture the hottest, most hardcore sex ever when you break my butt.
I then knew what to do. I walked over to her, lifted her hair up, and said, "We'll get through this." She began to
This is so
smile.
fucking bad.
"We'll
I
get you
hate
the
my
best
life.
help money can."
I don't want help, she screamed. I want you to beat the hell out of me. This is literally his fantasy
Yep.
of being able to cave in a woman's skull with steel knuckles.
Yep.
What the fuck was that for? God, that was, oh yeah? How do you do that? Anyway,
I dropped
she
down
doubled-
to a seating position. "Will you," I said, "will you leave me if I don't?"
she doubled the intensity of her sobbing. No, she said, I want to fucking strangle and take down your YouTube channel so much. I didn't know what to do. She didn't want help, but how could I do harm to my beloved soulmate, even if she liked it? I began to cry to myself. No, you began making turkey noises. My thoughts were broken with her sobbing. Punch me! Punch me!
Baby, I
You
said,
know-
I can't.
You know, millions of people struggle to get out of situations like this, and
Yep.
here he is making this his fucking fetish while he's still in high school. Baby, I said, I can't do that voice of yours.
Baby, I said, I can't.
You have to! She screamed at the top of her lungs. For the sake of our relationship, you have to!
She stood up and showed me her belly. I
Wasn't
looked
she
at-
already naked?
Yes, but I looked at her belly button, preferring to come all over it than punch it.
God!
What do I do? Do I punch her with everything I got, or do I try to persuade her to put this behind us and go back to the way we were with the whoopee? And she was happy that way, wasn't she? Without realizing what I was doing, I balled up my fist and gave a soft punch to her belly. She didn't budge.
That was pitiful, she said. Come on, break a bone.
She must have seen the sorrow in my eyes, because she began sobbing again, full blast. That was my cracking point. I couldn't bear to see the sad. I felt a ripping sensation in my soul, and the next thing I remember was her naked body curled up with her hands on a bruise the size of a basketball. My hand was clenched, and I knew exactly what I had done.
This is so bad. This is so bad because he's actually describing the process to murder.
He's describing the process of blacking out and beating the shit out of his wife.
I pulled her head up, as if she were laying on the ground after being skewered with a spear. What? Baby, are you all right? I was truly terrified. What did I do? Her eyes opened suddenly, and she removed her hands from her bruise, showing a giant red circle where I had busted several veins.
What?
What?
Busted her veins? I'm sorry, sir, but your wife is dead. As for Heavy R, once people found out about his account there, he deleted it and claimed to be revolted by the content on the site. What's interesting is a comment he made on one of the videos where he thoroughly inspected a video to discover that a woman being hanged wasn't actually dead, but merely acting, as it wasn't real snuff. I get the impression if you're disgusted by the content and leave the site forever, you wouldn't take the time to stop and analyze the footage to learn it's fake. In fact, wouldn't it be significantly less disgusting if it wasn't real? Oh, and just to clarify, I realize that comment says to Acerthorn, but there is no comment it's responding to. It's the top comment in the chain. His claims also ring a bit fucking hollow, given his history of writing erotic stories of women being beaten, and his admission that he fantasizes about kidnapping, torturing, and killing people who make him mad. Maybe I was wrong when I said he was a parasite and nothing more. He's also very clearly a degenerate, and very likely an active danger to anyone who happens to get on his bad side. Furthermore, on various sites online, especially on forums and the sludge pit that is Reddit, you can easily happen upon threads or posts of his in which he's frequently asking for help, only to immediately turn into a monolithic cunt towards anyone who takes the time out of their day to try and help him or give him advice when they don't give him the exact answer he's looking for, quite often because the exact answer he's looking for simply doesn't exist. And these people are simply explaining in the most rational and reasonable terms that a normal person would why what he's asking doesn't work the way he thinks it does, or they're answering his questions to the best of their ability, but still not giving the exact answer he wants. Thus they face the wrath of Mr. Stebbins as he fucking spurgs at them for trying to help him. I don't like the word toxic in relation to how people act online. I feel it's very much overused and misused. More frequently than not, it's utilized to demonize a person or group. That said, David Stebbins is very clearly worthy of the label of toxic, and his bad attitude towards every single person who doesn't treat him like a goddamn king is yet another common theme with the lard-filled sack of degeneracy that is Acerthorn. Post after post after post, thread after thread after thread, is nothing but David demanding answers that don't exist and getting mad when he doesn't get what he wants. He even combos this up by being such an insufferable cunt that he got banned from a fan-run wrestling forum, only to dox the owner and threaten him with a lawsuit over the incident. One of the things he threatened to sue for was the rules not being enforced consistently. As fucking if by writing a set of rules to keep a forum civil and usable and on topic, it's somehow a legally binding contract that they absolutely must ban anyone who breaks a rule. Time after time after time, David is constantly starting shit everywhere he goes and blaming everyone else. He hardly ever admits any fault. It's always everyone else that is wrong. It's always everyone else that's the asshole. Hey, David, maybe if you constantly find yourself in situations where people begin to despise you and remove you from their communities and are constantly giving you warnings about your behavior, you should maybe consider the one commonality between all of these encounters. Maybe you're the asshole, David. Maybe you're the one in the wrong. But he'll never accept that, because he's got terminal fucking protagonist syndrome. He thinks he's the goddamn center of the universe and the main character in the story of real life, and not only is everyone out to get him, but they're the villains of this story. In particular, in relation to his YouTube channel, he has looked for ways to increase how much money he makes from his channel, as with a channel as small as his, he doesn't make very much off of it. He's asked about getting sponsors, he has asked about playing his videos on loop in order to fraudulently generate ad revenue, and he has asked about how to get supporters on Patreon. Not once during these exchanges has he considered improving the quality of the content he makes. But more than that, it's yet another testament to his sheer unfiltered greed. How can I game the system? How can I make money with no personal effort? How can I get people to just give me money for free? This extends to anyone who shows even slight positivity towards him in his comments. Wait. What?
Turn off that pesky ad block. Turn off that pesky ad block.
This finally brings us around to his YouTube career, which very much seems like nothing more than another money-making scheme, especially with how low effort his videos tend to be. You see, David does in-depth analysis on video games, by which I mean he'll play less than 20% of the game if he for some reason doesn't like it and it's not hard for him to get mad at a game, ignore most of the dialogue, kill most of the NPCs he sees, make wild and baseless assumptions about the game, insult the fans, and call it a day. Naturally, people don't take too kindly to that, and he receives criticism in response. Now, when it comes to reviewing and analyzing entertainment media, there's a bit of a discussion of subjective versus objective. In short, the subjective side often amounts to, I liked it so it's good, I disliked it so it's bad, or feels above anything else, whereas objective criticism focuses more on consistency and logic, and what is factually in the work. What rules does this fictional world establish, and how well does it stick to them, and stuff like that. Now, while far too many people will fall back on art is subjective as an automatic defense against criticism towards a thing they like, clearly demonstrating they don't know what the fuck that phrase even means, I think most people would actually fall into the objective camp, either subconsciously, or if you were to push them enough in the discussion, because our minds are wired to want an understanding of the world around us, even though that doesn't always work out. As a result, if something doesn't work well in a story and you take notice of it, odds are it might irritate you due to it being nonsense. However, it's also possible that personal feelings towards a work can trump any amount of logical inconsistencies, plot holes, or other issues. To give a quick example, the abysmal disaster that is the Halo show is rife with issues, but it has created one of the easiest to reference examples of indisputably objectively bad writing. A rebel base is being attacked by a group of elites. The rebels all fire their guns at the elites, to absolutely no effect as they slowly waddle inside the front gates. Later on in the episode, Mr. Chump picks up one of these exact weapons from earlier and immediately fucking shreds 3 elites with it with no trouble whatsoever. The writing issue is clear. The weapon just didn't function, then it just did when it needed to, with nothing to explain why. Rather than crafting a scenario to allow the rebels to be wiped out, but also to allow Chief to save his teammate without breaking basic logic, the writers just decided to flip a switch from "this weapon is entirely useless" to "this weapon turns everything it fires at into paste, and you're just supposed to accept it." There is no argument anyone can make that can reconcile this issue. It's an indisputable example of objectively bad writing. I bring this up in particular because David frequently gets basic factual information about the games he covers wrong, and acts like it's the developer's fault for his own incompetence when it comes to playing these games. But when called out on it, he will fall back to the subjectivity defense.
This is how I feel about it, and nothing can change that.
That's fine, you're allowed to like or not like something, but the problem comes in when his references for why he doesn't like it are factually inaccurate to the content that's in the game. He refuses to accept that he's gotten anything wrong. It's the equivalent of plugging your ears and pretending you can't hear someone, which is especially bad in Acerthorn's case. See, because he gets information wrong frequently, people will criticize him, and if there's one thing Acerthorn can't take, it's being criticized. The irony on this is so fucking strong it has the power to obliterate half of Europe, but if Acerthorn perceives any comment to be uncivil in any way, shape, or form, he considers them to be toxic, bad faith actors and doesn't accept anything they say and will write them off entirely, assuming he doesn't just fucking delete their comments and block them from commenting on his channel, oftentimes not even reading the whole comment, despite the fact most of these comments actually are being civil with him. That's right, the guy who said shit like this, and this, and this, and this, to people taking time out of their day to try and help him, is the same guy who holds fucking civility as the goddamn holy grail of online discussion. If you're ever uncivil with him, you've permanently burned that bridge. But it's very much a case of rules for thee, but not for me, with Acerthorn on this one. If you're uncivil or insulting towards him, or if he perceives you to be in any way, you've permanently burned the bridge. But he can talk all kinds of shit to you, and it's just fine. And if you call him out on it, he'll deflect and try to act like he isn't a massive hypocrite. Hilariously enough, he equates this exact scenario to self-defense, as in, you're running at me with a knife so I shoot you so I don't die type self-defense. Also, he can excuse his own shitty behavior while holding others to a standard he doesn't hold himself to.
Civility is always important when debating virtually anything, and a failure to follow that rule of etiquette should automatically mean that you are in the wrong and your opponent is right.
That's right. If you say 2 + 2 = 4, then you're right. But if you say 2 + 2 = 4, you moron, that means you're wrong. What a wonderful line of logic. On top of all of his other issues, this means he's also a massive fucking hypocrite. It seems as though if something starts to irritate him in a game, it's essentially all over for that game. It's on his shit list. Even if that issue is of his own doing, or due to his own stupidity, such as his inability to find the fucking HEV suit in Black Mesa, not to mention buying an FPS despite not liking FPS games because he didn't look into it at all. If a game is on his shit list, he will barely give it any credit that it's due, and will seemingly look for things to complain about, and won't actually engage with the game, thus missing out on the things he claims it doesn't have. And when it comes to his videos on said games, he will shit all over the game no matter how inaccurate he is, or no matter how much the issues he faced are his own doing. To give some examples, in his Dark Souls Let's Play, he accidentally turns off the user interface, and he even admits to doing so.
See, turns out the HUD was disabled because I had set the HUD scale to 0.0.
When it came time for his retrospective, for a game he not only didn't complete, but also barely fucking played, he outright lied about the issue, as though it was the game's fault and not his own.
Before I literally did anything else in the game, the first order of business is to just open the fucking door, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. Turns out, the HUD does indeed tell you how to open the door, except for one tiny problem. The HUD was disabled by default.
He also gets information about the world story and gameplay wrong in this video. Because he got all of this wrong, people rightfully called him out for it. Now because he got called out for being a disingenuous lying shithead, he hates FromSoft, because they don't go all 1984 on their user base to ban anyone who says mean things to dumb fucks like David, who lie and misrepresent the games because he's shit at them. In fact, he seethes so much about this that he made a rage video about Elden Ring and how it's such an awful piece of shit game because the fans are toxic. Toxic because they explain why he was factually wrong about his claims about Dark Souls. Keep in mind, he didn't play Elden Ring. Similarly, with his New Vegas playthrough and retrospective, he refused to engage with the game. He indiscriminately killed NPCs whenever they annoyed him and got mad at the game for dumb shit constantly. One of the highlights is the quest One for My Baby, in which Acerthorn has numerous issues that really highlight the kind of person he is when it comes to making these videos. It's a nice little microcosm of his process. First of all, it was an investigation quest. When we covered this on stream, he got mad in chat that we didn't watch his entire Let's Play to know he did actually ask around, by which he means he talked to a whole 3 characters. Rather than doing an investigation, he did pretty much the bare minimum, a parallel to how he handles covering games he dislikes. Based on what little information he had, he made a dumb fucking assumption that was wrong. Again, parallel to how he criticizes these games. He makes claims about them, about the story or gameplay, or characters or other content, but because he didn't fully engage with the game, he's missing significant information, resulting in his assumptions being dead wrong. He then gets booned to kill the wrong person based on his dumb fucking assumption, and when the character chews him out for this monumental fuck up, for making him kill an innocent person, Acerthorn gets mad and kills Boone.
No. No.
A nice parallel to any time he makes one of these videos on a game he doesn't like, which is the approximate equivalent to him throwing an autistic shit fit because the game expected him to use more than the one single fucking brain cell he's got in the vast empty cavern that is his skull. Additionally, he will seek out further information to try to prove the game is terrible, and he will usually get that wrong as well. The evidence needed to complete One for My Baby correctly is a bill of sale that incriminates the character responsible. Acerthorn calls this out as bad writing, as it's stupid for a villain to keep documented proof of their crimes. While this is a common and obnoxious trope, the game actually justifies why it's kept. Jenny May needs to keep the bill of sale in order to get further payment when the pregnant woman she sold into slavery gives birth. Acerthorn even shows this note on screen, in full, in his embarrassing retrospective, and yet he has never read it to know his criticism is wrong and invalid.
Hey, here's a crazy idea. Instead of keeping that bill of sale locked inside a safe, why don't you just, I don't know, burn it? Who the hell keeps a clear paper trail of his criminal exploits? Any reason for that at all? It literally serves no purpose other than to provide the player character with a means of proving he did it.
This is especially hilarious as Acerthorn himself has said that plot holes are inevitable, and the best a developer can do is account for them, and yet he ignores the developers not just accounting for a potential issue, but they completely cover it in a way that makes total sense. I think this is a case of Acer having heard this particular criticism before from someone he respects, so he just repeats it in any situation where it might apply, without checking to see if it actually applies or not. This is why I brought up the whole objectivity issue earlier, to nail this point home. When his videos are so garbage that he frequently gets basic information wrong, to the point he had maybe only 1 or 2 valid points in his hour-and-a-half New Vegas retrospective, they have little to no value to the viewer besides to laugh at his sheer incompetency, or for people like me to respond to and tear the video apart for being so garbage. Unfortunately for Mr. Stebbins, not many people want to watch an absolute gormless Mong's autistic shitfit at a video game, thinly veiled as a critique or retrospective, in which he gets almost every point wrong. It's just not a solid basis to build a career on. This is why with 5 years on the platform, half a decade, and nearly 400 videos, his channel has barely gone anywhere. His most viewed video is petty rage bait with no substance. The only reason anyone even knows his name now is largely due to his serial DMCA abuse and the absurd lawsuits against other YouTubers who are critical of him, as well as his Elden Ring video, which seems to have been made purely for the hate clicks than anything else. The most attention his channel has ever gotten has been in the past couple months due to his rampant spurgery. This finally brings us to the final stretch. According to David's own words in his court documents in 2 cases, suing Sophian P, Sid Alpha, myself, Enclave Emily, and several others, his live stream software had turned on of its own accord, and was live streamed on Twitch without him knowing. This video is the fucking bane of his existence at this point.
Speak the truth out of me.
This accidental stream, and him Streisand affecting it to the nth fucking degree, is the reason so many people know who he is now. During this stream, he could be seen gorging on hot dogs, ranting about wanting to kill people,
Or I will kill you.
and making turkey noises. It is very embarrassing. Due to this, he has tried everything he can think of to hide it. Had he just owned up to it from the start, it likely wouldn't have gone very far. It's just someone being weird alone and assuming themselves to be offline. At most, he might have gotten a slight prodding about it from time to time, like anyone on the internet would with something embarrassing happening, and as far as embarrassing events go, this one is fairly tame. Instead, Acerthorn decided to wage a goddamn war on anyone who's shared or seen the stream or clips of it. In order to try and take it down wherever it gets shared, he uploaded it to his YouTube channel as a special members-only feature. Anyone who paid him $20 for the membership fee could see the video, something David himself admits no one has ever done. He claims that because the stream is paywalled, anyone covering it in any way, shape, or form is doing so illegally, and he will DMCA you for it. He claims this completely nullifies fair use, even though that's not how that works in the goddamn slightest. If something being paywalled was able to defeat fair use, then damn near every piece of media would have immunity from fair use, as having to buy the game, book, movie, TV show, song, or anything else is in itself a paywall to that content. He further states that there is no way to download the streams from Twitch, which means that any copies or clips of his accidental stream necessarily have to be stolen. Now, it probably won't amount to much, especially if he claims ignorance here, but he is lying. You absolutely can download streams from Twitch once they're done. Further, you can record your own screen while watching a Twitch stream to acquire it that way. Even worse for his claim, since no one has paid money to see this stream on his YouTube channel, that means that it was never illegally taken and shared from YouTube, because no one has ever had access to the version he uploaded to YouTube. It does mean, however, that someone had acquired a copy when it was publicly streamed live for free and shared that copy around. A few days later, he had done a collaborative stream with another small Twitch streamer and YouTuber by the name of Sophian P. Some people in Sophian's chat had alerted him to the incident where David sued his own parents, and apparently getting curious about it, Sophian had asked about it, resulting in Acer throwing another shit fit. Once again, had he simply acted like a mature adult and admit that he did a silly thing in his past, but it's far behind him now, this likely wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Yo, Acerthorn, I think it's time to get real quick. I've been getting some info from people on Discord and shit telling me that you're suing your parents and stuff.
Okay,
and
you know what?
that-
Fuck it. Look,
Like, I've been getting a lot.
I'm not. No. Not on the stream, okay?
Yeah, but it's just like they're spamming my
Not
chat and everything.
on the fucking stream.
And I've been getting.
Okay, you know what? Fuck this.
I've just been getting a lot of shit, man.
I believe he rage quits the stream at this point, and when Sophian attempts to upload his side of the collab stream to his own YouTube channel, David DMCA's him over it. This is what led Stebbins to sue Sophian P. Now we have to talk about the entity known as Initiate Cookie, which is either a single person or a group of people who collectively fuck with Acerthorn for the lulz. I honestly know next to nothing about Cookie, but this person or group is clearly a specter that haunts Acerthorn, as he seems to claim that a great deal of the bad things that happen to him is due to Cookie. Admittedly, Cookie does seem to have shown malicious intent towards Acerthorn, and as best as I could tell, he does seem to have a genuine reason to not like Initiate Cookie. However, it didn't end with simple internet trolling, as it would in most other cases, with David simply doing what he could to ignore this person. No, instead he put out not just a call to action, but a fucking bounty for people to dox Cookie.
I am literally being stalked and harassed by a guy on the internet, and I was hoping you could help me locate him. I'm offering a payment of up to $100 if you can give me his real name and address. This guy has admitted he won't stop harassing me. There is only one solution. Send him to prison for stalking. He'll have to stop harassing me then. Now, I know there are people out there who can look under the hood of most websites and find people's personal information without their knowledge or consent. When you obtain this personal information and publish it on the internet for all the rest of the world to see, that is known as doxing. But if anyone out there knows how to do it, I would greatly appreciate if you could come do it for me. As I said, I'm offering payment up to $100 to anyone who can help me bring this motherfucker to justice. I normally do not advocate doxing someone. This is literally the first time in my entire life I have asked anyone to dox anyone for anything.
To this day, David asserts that it wasn't doxing, even though he admits as much in his own video. He claims it was investigation work, and his intent behind the doxing was naturally so he could sue this person. The funniest part about this whole situation is the fact that Initiate Cookie might actually be the ultimate winner here, regardless of outcome. Due to his trolling of Acerthorn, it might have made Acer paranoid to the point of assuming anyone being mean to him online are secretly in cahoots with Cookie. Due to David's unfiltered, unrestrained sheer spurgery, far more people have taken interest in laughing at his ridiculous antics, and literally millions of people have heard of him now. Due to his rampant DMCA abuse and his own shit attitude towards everyone, his reputation is in tatters, never to recover. The only people who take interest in him now are going to be coming by to throw peanuts at the circus freak and laugh. In June of 2021, David Stebbins filed a lawsuit against Sophian P, and 2 others were added later, though one of them is apparently the wrong person. From what I've heard, he took someone's name from his secret joke contest and somehow came to the conclusion that this person was Initiate Cookie. This lawsuit is ongoing to this day, and we'll be coming back to this. All of these events were unknown to me. I had one prior encounter with Acerthorn online, in August of 2020, where he found my very first video I ever made and decided to comment on it. This led to a lengthy back and forth, in which he clearly proves he was acting in bad faith, and was being disingenuous because he didn't like my criticisms of Fallout 4. Admittedly, this video wasn't nearly as well made as it could have been. I'm in the process of remaking it and its sequel video. In July of 2021, I started doing a stream with friends in which we'd cover poorly made videos on stream and respond to them, largely inspired by EFAP. Only a few episodes in Acerthorn's Morrowind and New Vegas retrospective videos were suggested for us to cover on stream. Remembering the bizarre encounter with Mr. Stebbins and previewing the Morrowind video, I figured these would be good videos to cover, and they were. They're among the most popular of the streams we've done to date, due to the sheer absurdity of Acerthorn's claims, as well as our reactions to his monumental stupidity. Coverage was split into 2 streams, and Acerthorn had actually appeared in chat during the second stream. We invited him on to discuss the video, but he refused, claiming to be busy at the time. As the stream continued, he kept posting comments in the chat and having a bit of a back and forth with us in this manner. Eventually, he asked to see an exact quote of something he said in the video, which we were highly critical of, due to the claims he made about the game that were entirely untrue. We found the timecode for him, and quite conveniently, he started having internet troubles at that exact moment and missed the clip. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, but I can't watch the stream anymore. It keeps buffering. I'll have to watch it later after you've finished it.
He makes a lot of excuses, doesn't he?
Is that what he seriously just said?
Yeah.
After we did this specifically to show him?
Well,
Yeah.
All right, well,
Just endless excuses.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. It's not like we've seen him be dishonest in his other videos, so, you know.
oh, wait, yeah.
He continued to lurk in chat and eventually added me on Discord, where he frequently sent messages to me about things we were covering or saying on stream, and he had suggested we do a debate about his video, to which my 2 co-hosts and myself were agreeable to. He also tried to placate us by saying that he does say some positive things about the game, as if the entire reason we were being critical and insulting was because he does not like the game, which couldn't be further from the truth. What matters is how accurate he was with what he was saying about the game.
Well, here by the same, so Acerthorn says, if it's any consolation, I actually praise the factions of Brotherhood of Steel and Kings in this video. If you keep watching, you'll find that I have good things to say about them.
Okay,
It
but
doesn't matter.
that's the
It
thing.
doesn't
That's not
matter
what we're talking
good
about,
or
though.
bad.
Yeah,
We don't care if you say bad things about them or good things about them, as long as they're
Well,
accurate things about them.
Yeah, the
Yeah, neither of
accuracy
those-
accuracy is key. We're not looking for praise of the game. Like,
Yeah,
Just-
you can shit all over these factions. That's totally fine. You can hate them. We have no issue with that whatsoever. It's when you say things as if they're a factual statement when they are clearly, provably wrong.
yeah.
Well, even if somebody praised New Vegas, but they're being disingenuous about it, I think that would still be a problem.
Oh yeah,
that
absolutely.
That would piss me off just as much.
Yeah, if someone was to say that, God, I gotta think of like.
If someone said that there was not a single person, you can tell that Obsidian was the only people that actually cared, and had people working on their projects, while everyone else at Bethesda were lazy assholes, where not a single person in that office gave a shit.
Yeah, we
I would
would have
take
something
issue
to
with
say
that.
about that. We would take issue with that because
Yeah.
there are people
I'm
who
saying
do
Bethesda
clearly.
as a whole are lazy bastards, but that does not mean that the people in the trenches aren't putting in a full fucking day's work to get things done.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
do believe there's people at Bethesda with passion for the game they're making. It's just, unfortunately, the people in control don't have that passion, it seems.
Yeah, the people in control really fuck everything else over.
Well, here's the thing. You portray your opinions as objective fact. So, to you, there is no such thing as objectively right way to criticize this game. You won't admit that out loud, but it's true. No, there is an objectively right way to criticize this
Yeah,
game.
there is.
You bring it up facts and reasons and evidence.
Yeah. Well,
It's
just,
not
We bring
hard.
up
just to go back.
evidence of our stuff.
Mahler and EFAP do this all the time.
Well, just to go back to the NCR example, you're saying in this video that it's pretty much guaranteed that the NCR will win. They won the last battle, and you're saying
which
they've
has
got a strong
no-
position. All the evidence in the game goes against that because, well, as we said, they've got to deal with the Fiends. They're still reeling from dealing with the Brotherhood. They lost Searchlight. They lost Nelson. They lost
The NCR Correctional Facility.
the NCR Correctional Facility. They lost, what's that? Nipton, which is, again, close to one of their main lines into the Mojave.
They've lost Ranger outposts and haven't done anything about it or even know that it happened.
Yeah, there is a lot of evidence in the game, as we already said, to show that the NCR is not in a good position at all.
Yes, these are all things we can point to and that you can look at and see that it exists. We're not doing what you're doing, where we just assume something that doesn't even happen in the game and say, well, that's why. Like what you did with Mr. House, which you wouldn't even know about because you didn't do, but you still assumed as if that was it, and then tried to pass it off as an objective fact.
Yeah, and then you did.
Hold on. Because the statement, "Oh, well, this thing is never explained," that is an objective fact, whether you like it or not. The game factually does explain that, and you said it didn't, so you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're saying.
Another area, you did research, in massive air quotes, on the Legion, and yet you don't know anything about the Legion. The source you cited is the Templin Institute, which are not good fact checkers.
Yeah, that was a real bad move.
Sorry, he sent me a message in Discord.
No, you absolutely did. I'm sorry, Acerthorn. You did. You said that it is never explained
whether you like it or not.
Yes, dude, we can go back. We can literally go back and show it again. We've already done it 100 times, but we can do it again of you saying this is not explained. This is not clarified in the game. This thing happens for this reason. You do this all the time. And we point out, no, if you just would have paid attention, you would have seen he says this thing that clearly explains it. We literally bring it up and prove. We prove it.
And yeah, this is the thing. Whether you like it or not, saying the game doesn't explain this thing is an objective statement.
Yes.
There's no way around that.
Not an opinion.
Can you please show me in my Let's Play where it was actually explained? It doesn't matter if you fucking did it in your Let's Play. If you failed to play the content...
Yeah, you said it in your analysis video that
in your
that
analysis
it's
video.
not
No,
clarified.
guys, you're missing the point. He's saying where in his Let's Play was it explained, meaning he didn't play that part. So because you didn't play that part of the game, doesn't mean it wasn't explained.
Yeah, you also said in this analysis video that you did not play the rest of the house line, so you have no idea what's being said at all in an in-depth analysis video.
His video could have been entirely negative, but if he was correct in his assessment of the game and aspects of the game, we would have no choice but to agree. Similarly, if what he's saying that's positive about the game were factually untrue, we'd be critical of that as well. Admittedly, we were insulting towards him for the absolute abysmal quality of his video, but I feel that's entirely fair. If someone says something that is fucking stupid, I feel you should be able to say that's fucking stupid. By the end of the stream, I didn't want to deal with him anymore that day, so I didn't contact him about scheduling the debate, with intent to do it at a later date. A day or two later, I had noticed he had removed me from his friends list on Discord and had left my server. Taking that as a clear sign he wasn't going to do the debate, I announced this on the next stream. At this point, I had assumed this was over and done with, and we wouldn't hear from him again until we eventually got around to covering his Dark Souls video. I was very clearly mistaken. About 2.5 months later, another YouTuber, who had also been covering various videos, particularly about Skyrim, had gotten around to watching Acerthorn's Skyrim video on stream. I'll keep his name out of this, but this is someone I respect and greatly enjoy his content. I slept through the day, that day, as I was working night shift, and I had awoken to people telling me that not only was this guy covering Acerthorn, but Acerthorn was in chat crying about me. Apparently he brought me up frequently and was a salty bitch for most of the stream. He also emailed the streamer numerous times, and while we don't know what was said in the emails, a lot of people speculate that Mr. Stebbins was trying to bribe him to do or not do something, though we still don't know what that is. My co-hosts were also in chat and commenting frequently. This ended up going into the night and resulting in both my co-hosts, as well as Acerthorn, joining this streamer's Discord. Now, as I was at work at the time, I'm a bit foggy on the exact details, but I believe Acerthorn was demanding a civil debate, so the moderators on the server sectioned off a channel for my co-hosts to debate Acerthorn, which he was not pleased about. It seems as though he wanted to debate someone else, possibly about us? I'm not sure. Either way, after Acer's demands for civility, and my co-hosts agreed to being civil, and were incredibly civil in their responses to him, Mr. Stebbins pretty much threw that out the window fucking immediately by saying,
"Maybe you have suppressed memories of your parents beating you as a kid, which is why you're so toxic. Maybe you don't. I don't give a fuck."
Alright, I'm going a little bit off script here for this one, but I just went through that entire debate again, and yeah, it's something else. I've got it here on screen for everyone who wants to read through it, but you'll have to pause to read the messages because it scrolls too fast. He torched his own reputation within this community due to his own petty hatred. This ties back into the whole bridge burning thing. Because we weren't civil when covering his video, which is not something he's entitled to, by the way, that means the bridge has been burned, and no civil discussion can ever happen under any circumstances. We're all on the shit list forever. Seeing Acer flame out in real time, both of my co-hosts decided to just end the debate there, as they had very clearly won at the opening arguments. Included within this short debate was the discussion of what constitutes an in-depth analysis, and Acerthorn demanding an authoritative source on what that is numerous times. Which is another common tactic of his. He demands an authoritative source as the only thing that will change his mind if he has his mind firmly made up already. This is done because no actual source that could be considered authoritative by him would ever say that his statements about video games are factually wrong, so he treats it as an impenetrable shield to say whatever dumb shit he wants. In this case, he could see that a dictionary would be an authoritative source on what in-depth means, and when faced with the answer, he was left stumbling. See, Mr. Stebbins seems to think that playing a mere fraction of a game is enough to do an in-depth analysis or critique, but that's not how it works. In-depth means going through most, if not all, of the game in order to accurately talk about it. Acer doesn't like New Vegas, so he only ever did a surface level glance at it and bitched and moaned about everything he didn't understand or didn't engage with. So when faced with the definition, he still tried to redefine it to his benefit.
Okay, but covering doesn't mean including every single itty-bitty bit of minutia, does it? Cover could, well, cover any number of thoroughness levels. For example, if I touch upon every aspect of the game, but only spend a few minutes on each aspect, I still cover them, don't I? So if I cover 10% of every part of the game, that's still in-depth. If I cover 90% of one part of a game, that's also in-depth. If I cover 10% of only one part of a game, then that is not in-depth. So because my 90-minute New Vegas retrospective covered even small amounts of each part of the game, it didn't, you fucking idiot, but still cover nearly every part, it still meets the definition of in-depth. I'm not lying when I say it's in-depth, I'm just using a different interpretation of the definition than you are.
Absolutely fucking pathetic.
Like I pointed out in the main chat room, nobody in their right mind is gonna play that much of a game they hate, so expecting me to do so, just for the sake of playing enough, is fucking torture.
I don't know, David. Maybe because that's the point of an in-depth analysis? If you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, then that defeats the whole point of being in-depth. There's two very good reasons for this. First of all, it allows you to be as accurate with the information you're presenting as possible. If you get something wrong, and you get called out for it, you start to lose credibility with your audience. This is why Acerthorn has no credibility in the slightest as a reviewer or game analyst. Secondly, by actually going in-depth, not only can you find more things wrong with a work to criticize it for, but you might even find some things that you like. Due to his poor treatment of my friends, I made a quick video talking about Acerthorn's issues. Essentially, I talk about many of the issues discussed here, minus the lawsuits, but in far less detail and more focus as it was supposed to be a short video. His double standard and hypocrisy, why his videos are terrible and shit like that. In response, he made a fucking See the Rage response video, which is just fucking hilarious. He has since taken this video down. Now more people start taking notice of Mr. Stebbins shortly after this point. Other people make videos either responding to his terrible videos, or pointing out issues with his attitude, and so forth. Meanwhile, on my Discord server, a thread was made to essentially make fun of him. It's a contained thread in which people just talk about what a weirdo he is, or make jokes about him. He didn't like this. Artemis Wolf made a video criticizing one of his Fallout 4 videos, which he DMCA'd. Aside from the 3 people he launched a lawsuit at earlier in the year, this was really the first strike that turned Acerthorn from a bit of a joke into an utter scumbag for a bunch of people, myself included. Now because they were both such small channels, Acer with barely over 2,000 subscribers, and Artemis at just 100, I didn't expect much to come from talking about his DMCA, and nothing did come of it at first. A couple weeks after the debate, Acerthorn adds me on Discord. I accept the invite and he starts bitching and moaning about how people in my Discord server are doxing and harassing him. Prepare to hear those words a lot, because these claims are all he's got. What he considers to be harassment is people making fun of him in a contained thread on a server which isn't harassment. However, he does have an alt account that had been spying on the server, thus exposing himself to people making fun of him amongst themselves, and he couldn't let that stand. As for the doxing, people realized the connection between Acerthorn and David Stebbins being the same person through the Sophian P lawsuit, in which Acerthorn fully doxes himself in the court documentation and ties his real name to his YouTube account. And through knowing his real name, people had learned of his ridiculous lawsuits in which he had sued companies and states for billions, trillions, and quadrillions. Because the court documents are a matter of public record, the genie was out of the bottle. The toothpaste was out of the tube, and there was no getting it back in. I explained this to him, and he refused to accept it or anything I said. Typical of Acerthorn, he was nothing but hostile and disingenuous in every response he made to me, even though I was very clearly being very patient and civil with him. Hell, I had even tried giving him advice that acting the way he is wouldn't work out well for him, and he's on his way to becoming a lolcow should the wider internet find out about how he acts. The link to a video showing our full conversation is in the description below. At this point I just blocked him because I was sick of dealing with his shit. Naturally, things escalated from here. Now, I'm not going to go through all the DMCAs and threats in chronological order, because it's not really necessary. However, I will go through a good deal of the main instances of this we know of, and the circumstances surrounding them. Now, as mentioned, Acerthorn had DMCA'd Artemis over her response to his Fallout 4 video, responding to Mr. Caption, but he DMCA'd her an additional 2 times. Once over her response to his Dark Souls video, because he didn't like what she had to say, and once over another video she had made, talking about the current situation that contained none of his content, only this picture of him. This killed her channel. He also false DMCA'd Echo Wilder, and this might actually be one of the more damning cases for David. See, Echo criticized him in her video, but she was far less harsh than other people. In fact, he was actually pretty chill with her at first over the video, but he didn't like comments people were making and threatened to DMCA her video over that, even hinting that the court might take action against her for the comments people make, which is just absurdity. He finally pulled the trigger on this DMCA threat when she defended Artemis after he had DMCA'd her. This is another thing he does frequently. He likes to act like a smug fucking cunt, almost like a shitty anime villain who thinks they've won and issued threats as if you have no choice but to submit to his demands or be destroyed. Next up is Enclave Emily, who received 3 DMCAs from Mr. Stebbins as well, one of which Acer had actually retracted, one that had succeeded, and one that didn't go through because there was a video he had announced he'd be DMCAing, so she removed it before his report could be processed. He had additionally filed a privacy complaint against Enclave Emily because she had said that he received state benefits. Which is true. We also have Rogue Internet Man, who had taken to laughing at Acerthorn on Twitter. For this, Acer managed to get Rogue permanently banned from Twitter, which was actually later reversed, which is extremely rare for Twitter. He didn't receive any DMCAs on YouTube because he hadn't covered him at this point on his channel. Additionally, Skibbity Dibbity had received a DMCA strike for attempting to upload his side of a debate he had with Acerthorn in mid-December. This is particularly scummy on Acerthorn's part, as this was a collaborative stream between the two of them, and Acerthorn just simply claimed he owned all copyright, and even outright states in a court document we'll be going over shortly that Skibbity is entitled to sue Acerthorn for recognition as co-author, but he'd have to give up his anonymity online, which is another thing I'll be discussing later. Now, I can't remember the exact timeline of events, but after the DMCA spree had started, 2 things happened. Acerthorn had officially filed a lawsuit against both Enclave Emily and Echo Wilder, as they had both filed counterclaim notifications to his false DMCAs. I had also reached out to Sid Alpha for advice, as the situation had very clearly spiraled out of control due to this degenerate sack of shit abusing the system to intimidate, dox, and silence anyone who was critical of him. Sid Alpha looked into the situation, starting with Acerthorn's absurd How to Not Do Fair Use video, which Sid made comments about on Twitter, which Acerthorn eventually caught wind of. Now, David did try playing innocent at first, claiming that Sid had been lied to, that he had received an extremely biased and one-sided story from us, but at this point, Sid had only really seen Acer's own ridiculous video, and I think it made the situation very clear to Sid. Once Acer realized that not only was Sid getting involved and not backing down, but was making a video on the situation as well, Acer did two things. Reupload lost his Twitter account at that point, which he used as a threat against Sid, which is another thing Mr. Stebbins does a lot. If he gets any win, no matter how small, or if he could twist something to sound like a win for him, or to sound beneficial to him in any way, he'll do it. So with Rogue's Twitter going down due to Acer's false reporting, he tried using this to intimidate others into not talking about him, specifically Sid Alpha. The other thing Acerthorn did was put out a call to action video, asking for his subscribers to mass flag Sid Alpha's video down the moment it went live. He did this before Sid Alpha had even begun scripting the damn thing.
Acerthorn here, and I have a call to action that I need to ask you guys to do. These people, butthurt that I'm calling them out on their harassment and doxing, have recruited a rather large YouTuber named Sid Alpha, so I would ask all of you to keep an eye out for when that video comes, and when it happens, report it. Both for abuse, hateful and abusive content, promotes hatred or violence, which, if he's going to be sharing that stuff with the intent of publicly shaming me, of course he's going to be promoting the hatred towards me. Or, alternatively, harassment or cyberbullying. This is harassing someone else. He's harassing me. When I report it, I'm going to say he's harassing me. When you report it, you would say he's harassing someone else.
It goes without saying, but the point of the flagging system is to remove content that either infringes copyright using DMCA, or remove content that violates YouTube's terms of service. If the video hasn't even been scripted at this point, let alone made and released, then he can't know if it violates copyright or YouTube terms of service. In case you needed any more proof that Acerthorn is doing this maliciously and in bad faith, well, here it is. When Sid Alpha's video did eventually go live, Acerthorn naturally tried to DMCA it out of existence. Acerthorn also tried to triple strike my channel out of existence as well. At least, as far as I can tell, it was an attempted triple strike. Acer claims to have DMCA'd both of the streams covering his Morrowind and New Vegas retrospective videos. However, I had only received notice for one of these, where YouTube denied him. He also tried to DMCA a stream over 9 hours long, over a meme making fun of him that was on screen for less than a minute. YouTube denied this as well, again showing the sheer pettiness and maliciousness of Mr. Stebbins.
Legionary Hunter isn't wrong, by the way. Acer looks like the Warcraft guy from South Park.
Yes!
He really does.
He really does.
You know what I have to do now? I have to do it. I have to fucking grab that image.
You have to show the edit people have made.
Show the image. Thank God it is fairly recent in the Pinata thread.
It gets spammed all the time, so it should be easy to find.
It's so accurate.
Oh man, the fucking, I don't know if you could show a side by side, but it is scarily close.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Literally Acerthorn, balding and all.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, it's literally him. It's crazy how much that looks like him.
A DSP wannabe? No, Acerthorn wants to be a genuinely, like,
he wants to
YouTube
be patrician.
critic. Yeah, he wants...
He actually said he wants to be like the patrician.
But the thing is, he can never be that because he is the DSP of video game analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird that he would say he wants to be like patrician when he was, like, so...
Dude,
against him?
So I can't do an analysis thing if I haven't played most of the game? And even Patricia said, yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Everyone in that server,
every single person,
was like, yeah, you do. And he was just like, no, you're supposed to agree with me.
Here is a full list of the known instances of Acer DMCAing people, issuing privacy complaints against them, and threatening to do one or the other, as he frequently threatened people with DMCAs too. This list continues to grow. Now, suing Echo Wilder and Enclave Emily for bullshit reasons wasn't enough. He amended his complaint to now include me, Sid Alpha, Rogue Internet Man, Just Emmy, Sophie and P, and Bibby Fazy, as well as Shira Perlmutter, who works at the Copyright Office. I don't fully know the circumstances around Just Emmy's DMCAs, so I won't really go into them. As for Bibby Fazy, this is apparently a fake name people use online to troll YouTubers through DMCAs. Acerthorn has a 0% chance of ever finding out who this person is, unless they come out and admit they did it. And even if he does find out, he's still basically got no chance of having anything done to this person. Let's go through Acerthorn's absolutely absurd and ridiculous claims one by one and tear them apart. For Shira Perlmutter, this is just foolishness on his part. He's suing her for not granting him copyright on geometric fucking shapes. Now all he's demanding is for the court to force her to grant him copyright on them, but this is still absurd and ridiculous. Now I haven't looked into this person, but apparently she's a very talented lawyer herself, so odds are, if she's actually dragged into court over this, she'll probably shit stomp Acerthorn into the dirt as he deserves. Now why is he trying to copyright various geometric shapes? Well, ever the money-grubbing cunt that Mr. Stebbins is, he's come up with a new get-rich-quick scheme that naturally involves suing the ever-living shit out of every single person imaginable numerous times over. Enclave Emily got the first taste of this. So if you go over to Acerthorn's YouTube channel, you'll notice a strange pattern with his thumbnails. Each one of his videos that isn't a short has one of these 10 random geometric shapes with his channel name on it. This wasn't done for the sake of creativity, but for the sake of suing any person who shows his channel numerous times over. Take this image here for example, showing his videos on his channel. Look at all those geometric shapes he's trying to claim copyright on. The circle appears 3 times, and a 5-pointed star appears twice, but there's also the 6-pointed star, and the unusual geometric shape. What Acerthorn will try to do with this is claim 4 counts of copyright infringement for showing these images on screen. This is one of the absurdities he's suing Enclave Emily over. 8 counts of using his channel art in a video to discuss the situation involving him. So first off, there are no actual damages here in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't lose any money from these images being shared in this way. In fact, under fair use, Emily's use of his shitty channel art would fall under a journalistic use. Enclave Emily doesn't have to be an actual journalist to use something in a journalistic capacity. She's talking about a situation to inform people of what's going on and showing relevant images that help inform her audience. There is also no market for these images. Acerthorn isn't selling them, there is a logo. Showing his logo when talking about him and his YouTube channel is basically the equivalent of showing the YouTube logo while talking about issues related to YouTube, or showing the Fox News or CNN logos when talking about them. There is absolutely zero merit to these claims. This is just David Stebbins once again trying to abuse the fuck out of the court system to extract money to unjustly enrich himself. This time, at the expense of not a mega corporation, but just a normal person trying to live her own life. For these non-infringements, Acer is demanding maximum statutory damages on each one. That is $150,000 each for his shitty channel art alone. That totals to $1.2 million just for his shitty channel art being shown in a video when it was absolutely relevant and absolutely not infringing to do so. He is additionally suing her for copyright infringement in relation to his accidental stream and its collaborative stream with Sophie and P. If you think this shit is crazy so far, you ain't seen nothing yet. For the simple act of viewing these clips, which Acer has not proven she has done, he is suing for an additional $150,000 each. He claims she knew, or should have known, that he was in the process of suing Sophie and P, and thus should have known that he'd consider viewing these clips to be copyright infringement. Acer seems to think that because he knows he is suing someone, that everyone else should automatically know too. Even if viewing these clips alone constituted copyright infringement, this is not something Enclave Emily had known at the time, and it is unreasonable to say she should have known. This brings a total up to $1.5 million. Finally is the extremely disingenuous claim about the Skibbity debate. In the court document, Acerthorn very much makes it seem as though it was a straight copy of the debate and nothing more. as well as distribution of that stream. What it actually was a recording of a massive Discord call with over 20 people talking and commenting on the stream without the ability to pause, and it did not cover the entire stream. David's stream was about 7 hours long, whereas the recording was less than 4 hours total. Additionally, Enclave Emily had only ever shared it with 2 people, a friend of hers, and me. Acer claims that this is 2 more counts of infringement at maximum statutory damages, bringing the total to $1.8 million he is suing Enclave Emily for. Next up is Echo Wilder. Mr. Stebbins makes the exact same claim against Echo Wilder as he did with Enclave Emily in regards to the accidental stream and the collaborative stream, for which Acerthorn is also demanding maximum damages for, which brings the demand from Echo to $300,000 off the top. Additionally, he's suing her over her video responding to him, and he misrepresents the situation entirely. He claims that the video is a market replacement because it uses the heart of a video that is a minute long, by the way. However, this alone does not constitute a market replacement, as there is significant commentary that changes the nature of the work, thus transforming it. Acer also claims that Echo Wilder did very little to criticize the video, but again, this is untrue. The overall criticism was about Acerthorn's behavior and attitude. Mr. Stebbins tries to misrepresent Echo's video to largely be about comments he makes in response to comments he gets, but even if that is a large majority of the video, that doesn't change the fact that Echo properly criticized the short video enough to constitute fair use. Just to give an example of why his claim is fucked, take this video you're watching right now, with how long it is, and just imagine somewhere in here I had included a response to a minute-long video of his. He would make the same claim, that the majority of this video does not have to do with his short, but that is besides the point entirely. It is 100% irrelevant what the majority of the video was about, as long as the copyrighted material used is done so abiding by fair use, which Echo Wilder has done. That's another $150,000 to the tab, bringing up his demands and damages from Echo to $450,000. Next up is me. David Acerthorn Stebbins is suing me for copyright infringement for my 2 streams covering his shitty Morrowind and New Vegas retrospective videos. He does admit that the streams are highly transformative, but still argues against the other factors of fair use. He claims that because his retrospectives are creative works, that causes the second factor to weigh against my claim of fair use. But just remember, a criticism or retrospective or in-depth analysis isn't a purely creative work. It's not a work of fiction. It is based on the factual elements of what is and isn't in the game. This isn't a killing blow though, and Acerthorn knows this. He's also disingenuous about this point too. The nature of the work more so applies to whether it's a factual work or a purely fictional work. Now Acerthorn could potentially argue that his New Vegas retrospective is a purely fictional work, as he gets pretty much nothing he says about the game correct, to the point it could be argued that it's a work of fiction. But that would require him to admit that he's wrong about the game, which he'll never do. He also argues against the third factor, the amount of substantiality used. He also gets this wrong. Acerthorn argues that because every single second of the 2 videos were used, that the third factor will weigh against me, but this isn't actually completely true either. The third factor relates to how you use the copyrighted material in your own work in regards to how much you take. For example, if you were to take a 5-minute long scene from a 2-hour long movie and provide substantial commentary or criticism towards that scene or parody it in some way, then that would be fair use. However, if you include the entire 2-hour long runtime of the movie in your criticism of the 5-minute scene, that would no longer be fair use. Additionally, you can use every second if your use follows fair use, which is what my streams did. We comment and criticize both entire videos from start to finish. He finally argues against the fourth factor of fair use, effect on the market. He argues that because my 2 streams contain the entirety of his 2 videos, that they necessarily constitute a market replacement. But that's not how that works. He references a case where it's stated that copying all or substantially all of the copyrighted work, the distinction of function vanishes, since whatever the intent of the copier, a verbatim reproduction will serve the function of the plaintiff's work as well as the defendant's. Now this is a quote taken out of context that doesn't actually help Acerthorn's case. In fact, the case he's referring to here isn't even comparable. Right below the citation he uses, the very same document states that the defendants had copied a parody in its entirety and had only covered up 8 of the most offensive words. Not only is this entirely not comparable, but it renders his citation entirely moot. The cherry-picked citation was in relation to a parody that had been copied wholesale, and what it's saying is that because the parody is a creative work, it is protected more by the second factor than a factual work would be. This is another extremely common issue with Acerthorn. He will constantly cite case law and videos by legal YouTubers, however, he will only consider what few statements align with what he wants, and he will ignore literally everything else telling him he's wrong. As if his arguments weren't utter shit already, he feels the need to say shit even more stupid than he already has. First, he lies by saying we didn't talk over his video at all, which is just flat out blatantly untrue. Yes, we pause frequently to talk about the videos we cover, that's so nothing gets missed, but that does not negate fair use. Secondly, based on that previous claim, he makes the absurd and comical claim that you could cut out every moment of commentary by the panel and you'd be left with an exact copy of his video, thus, it is a total usurpation of the market for his video. But once again, Acerthorn is being disingenuous and he's wrong. First of all, we're talking about 2 streams that total in length at 19.5 hours. You would have to remove 17.5 hours to be left with the 2 hours of Acerthorn's content he is claiming has been infringed. No one would do that amount of work to watch Acerthorn's shitty videos when they could just go to his channel and watch them without having to skip every moment of us talking. His argument here basically amounts to, if you take out all the transformative elements, then it's no longer transformative. Yeah, that would apply to literally every example of a transformative work, you fucking brain-dead monolithic tub of lard. If you remove the transformative parts, it's no longer transformative. Fucking shocking! But that would require additional work from the viewer, as the work is transformed. Finally, these streams don't constitute a market replacement because they serve an entirely different purpose to Acerthorn's videos. His shitty Morrowind and New Vegas retrospective videos are criticisms of these 2 games. The streams covering them are criticisms of his videos and of Acerthorn himself. These are 2 entirely different markets. Anyone looking for a video criticizing Morrowind and New Vegas would not get what they're looking for from these streams, as they're criticizing poorly made videos. His case against fair use here is weaker than a wet paper bag. For this, he demands the revenue from the 2 streams, because he can't claim statutory damages, otherwise he'd absolutely demand $300,000 for this. Additionally, he's claiming copyright infringement on the collaborative stream as well, identical to his claims against Echo Wilder and Enclave Emily, for which he's demanding maximum statutory damages as well. Similar to the previous 2 times, he claims I knew or should have known that he was suing someone over these streams. I did not know this, and it's unreasonable to say I should have. David, just because you think you're the center of the universe, doesn't mean you are, buddy. Not everyone is going to know or care about your personal dealings, and it's monolithically stupid to say anyone should know. Fuck off back to your disgusting mold pit, you slimy elephantine goblinoid cunt. In addition to that, we get the most absurd and ridiculous claim against me. I referenced it earlier, but here it is in full. Someone made a meme and sent it to me. This image here. I showed it on stream. The stream that was over 9 hours long and had nothing to do with Acerthorn besides this meme. I showed it for less than a minute. Mr. Stebbins DMCA'd the stream for this, but YouTube denied it. How fucking petty and obsessive must you be to watch all of my content to find something this fucking small to try and DMCA me over? Fuck you, cunt. He claims that this is copyright infringement because the background of the meme is a still frame taken from his accidental livestream. He also claims I made the meme, which I didn't. Someone else did. Because this is in the stream, He claims that it should automatically not be considered fair use, even though that's not how that works in the goddamn slightest. Yes, he's actually trying to claim that his fucking room is copyrighted. This is why I stated at the start of the video that this single frame is enough for him to false DMCA you and maybe even try to sue you. He considers any single frame of his paywalled accidental stream to be copyright infringement, regardless of how you're using it. In total, he's demanding $450,000 from me, plus the revenue from the 2 streams covering his Morrowind and New Vegas videos. Moving on to Sid Alpha, and this is where Mr. Stebbins gets particularly bold. Similar to before, demanding maximum statutory damages of $150,000 for this, but when it comes to Sid Alpha's video, he's demanding $20 per view it gets, as he's claiming this is lost revenue. But as Acerthorn himself admits, no one had paid to see this stream before. There was no market for it. No one was willing to pay for it. Acerthorn also outright blatantly lies again about the usage of the clip. He claims the extent of Sid Alpha's usage was to say that it was odd, and nothing more. Not only is Sid Alpha's usage entirely fair use, but even if Acerthorn were somehow to win on this claim, which he's got little chance of doing, he would never get the money he's demanding. See, when you sue for something like this, you need to prove damages, but there's so many factors to this that basically mean Acerthorn would get nothing from this. First off, not every view of Sid Alpha's video constitutes a viewing of the clip. The assumption David is working on here is that every single view of Sid's video is a full view from beginning to end, but David himself knows this isn't the case. YouTube counts something like 5 or 10 seconds of watch time as a view, so anyone who watched part, but not all of the video, would count as a view. But many of those people who didn't watch the full video likely stopped before the end of Sid's video, and that clip is near the end. More so, there's no way to actually tell how many of these people wanted to see that clip in particular, nor is there any way to determine how many of them would actually pay to see this clip. It's like how you might pay $20 for a steak at the grocery store, but you wouldn't pay $300 for that same steak. Same logic applies here. Clearly no one wants to pay for the accidental stream, but people might watch if it were available for free. That does not constitute a lost sale. More damaging for Acerthorn, he himself admits that no one had paid the price to see this clip, meaning there was no interest, no market to be damaged. Every viewing of that clip through Sid's video is nothing more than an incidental viewing due to it being part of an overall larger work, rather than the heart of Sid's video. People clicked on the video because they had wanted to see the overall subject, not that particular clip. As for Rogue Internet Man, Acer is suing him over the accidental stream as well. You guessed it. Maximum statutory damages, $150,000. Finally, he makes a claim against Sophian P, who he's suing in the other lawsuit as well. His claim is that all the infringement and harassment has been induced by Sophian P. He claims that Sophian reached out to me and Sid Alpha and asked us to assist in harassing and doxing him as punishment for the lawsuit. Acer claims that had Sophian P never reached out to us, we never would have covered him the way we have. This is nothing but pure baseless assumption by Acerthorn. Or more accurately, it's a blatant fucking lie that he needs in order to pursue this case in the way he's trying to. See, near the start of this amended complaint, he claims that the court has long-arm jurisdiction over those of us who don't live in the United States, because he claims we're all colluding to ruin his joke of a career as a YouTuber and Twitch streamer for no other reason than hatred and spite. But for that to be true, he needs all these events to be connected to and started by Sophian P, which isn't the case. And he cannot ever prove this to be the case either. I didn't know Sophian P even fucking existed when I did my streams covering Acerthorn's shitty videos. Even after I did meet Sophian P, none of the actions I've taken have been due to him, and in fact, he hasn't even asked me to do anything as far as this whole situation goes. As for Sid Alpha's involvement, as I stated earlier, I had reached out to him due to David's abuse of the DMCA system. He was hurting a lot of smaller creators, and it was clear he wasn't going to stop. As for everyone else, as far as I'm aware, they all caught wind of the situation because Acerthorn himself wouldn't stop throwing shit fits about people criticizing him. Remember, when he was crying about me in that stream, 2.5 months after I covered his streams, most of those people didn't know who either of us were. Most of the people on that streamer's Discord server didn't know who we were. But David couldn't let it go. He had to fucking seethe and cry about it for literal months, resulting in him getting some well-deserved fucking clapback and nuking his own reputation within that community due to his own bad behavior. I made the video I did because he attacked my friends. Then he started DMCAing people left and fucking right, and more and more and more people found out about him and his shitty actions and talked about this malicious cunt abusing DMCA to silence his critics. Because he assumes that Sophie P has orchestrated this whole situation, Mr. Stebbins believes he should be held liable for contributory infringement. In total, he's demanding statutory damages to the tune of $3,450,000, as well as the profits from my 3 streams, including the 9-hour-long stream that wasn't even fucking about him, and only showed a meme image for less than a minute, and the already discussed $20 per view of Sid Alpha's video before it was taken down. In fact, at the time of recording this video, Sid's video has 148,047 views. So at $20 per view, that totals to $2,960,940, bringing the case total up to $6,410,940. Yeah, David Stebbins is claiming this is reasonable too. He said in the court documents that in his past he has sued for absurd amounts of money, referencing the billions, trillions, and quadrillions he's demanded. But he's saying this as if he isn't attempting to sue every fucking person possible for maximum damages, even though he has not only not suffered damages from these videos and streams, but even if he did, it would never amount to what he's demanding. It's utter insanity. The only reason he isn't suing us all for $999 septillion is because he's learned that there's a cap to how much damages you can get. This is yet again Acerthorn trying to extract as much money from the situation as he can. Again, he's trying to unjustly enrich himself at the expense of other people's lives. This is a combination of his sheer, unrelenting greed and his petty spitefulness. He wants to utterly destroy all of us for what he perceives to be wrongs done to him. This isn't about copyright, not in the slightest. This is all because he couldn't take being criticized for his actions, or insults on the internet, so he's seeking to ruin and destroy everyone he considers to be his enemy. Remember, in college, he admitted to having fantasies of torturing and killing those who made him mad. We all certainly qualify. Now he doesn't have the means to do that to any of us, but is this not the next best thing? Abuse the legal system to utterly destroy any possible chance at having a decent life by having to pay this malignant, mold-infested cunt absurd amounts of money. That's not all. The relief he's demanding in the court is absolutely psychotic. He is demanding that YouTube, Discord, and Twitch permanently delete all of our accounts and prevent us from ever making new accounts ever again. This is absolutely done out of malicious spite. He wants to erase our abilities to do anything of significance on the internet ever again, all because he can't take criticism or because people online insulted him. If Warner Bros. Were to infringe your copyright, you have a right to sue, but you can't demand the company be shut down. They might have to shut down if they can't afford to pay damages, but that's not what this is. He starts his complaint by crying that we're trying to ruin his career, but here he is making actual demands to utterly destroy any career or potential career for any of us on YouTube or Twitch, even if we never talk about him again. If all of us decide to go off and ignore him and not mention him ever again, that's not enough. Because he wants total destruction. Because he wants extreme vengeance for perceived wrong. He wants us to suffer as much as he thinks he can legally demand. But naturally, that's not all. It never is with this guy. He's demanding that all our devices, computers and phones and such, be impounded by a third party to have all of his content scrubbed from them. He additionally wants us to remove from any website any instance of his copyrighted works that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us. As if we somehow have the power to do this! Yeah, sure, I'll just call up Kiwi Farms and tell him to take down all his stuff, because that's totally gonna work out. No, David Stebbins is just completely unreasonable in every sense of the word. Furthermore, and possibly most damning for his case, Mr. Stebbins seems to be seeking a way to outright nullify fair use as a defense, likely because he knows that these works he's suing over are fair use and meet the standard, and he can't argue against fair use. In particular, he loves the phrase unclean hands, which he will use ad fucking nauseum, and he also claims that we're acting in bad faith and that this is an abuse of rights. He largely rolls these together and uses similar reasoning for all three of them, but let's break it down quickly. First up, unclean hands is typically used by a defendant, not a plaintiff, because it's used to essentially dismiss a case that is wrongfully brought to the court, often due to the plaintiff omitting facts that would render their case moot. His best actual claim for unclean hands is that we were insulting towards him. That's it. Now again, he claims this to be a conspiracy to ruin his joke of a YouTube career, but let's be real, there isn't actually anything we could have done to ruin his career even if we wanted to. If calling someone fat and stupid on the internet were enough to end careers, then Ethan Ralph would have been back working in a McDonald's years ago. Acer abusing the DMCA system are his own actions. No one could have made him do this. Talking about his legal history may have been a bit embarrassing, and he may have to deal with the odd joke or someone bringing it up, but as long as he acted like a mature adult about it, then no one would have cared. Once again, Mr. Stebbins is blaming other people for his own problems. His channel was stagnating because his content is shit. Cry must subjectivity all you want, David, but if your videos contain actual misinformation, that renders them useless to your target audience. This is why your shit fucking channel and your YouTube career are dead. That and your malicious abuse of the DMCA system. Next is the bad faith claim. He believes that because some people were involved in a Discord thread that made fun of him, that constitutes bad faith and malicious action. Again, that's not how that works. Finally is abuse of rights. His claim here is that we have made it abundantly clear that the predominant motive for exercising fair use is to cause harm, that no serious or legitimate motive exists for exercising the right, and that the exercise of the right is against moral rules, good faith, or elementary fairness. Except he can't prove any of that in the slightest. First of all, my streams covering his videos were legitimate commentary and criticism, and he cannot ever prove that they are not. More so, insulting, laughing at, and criticizing someone on the internet is not enough to reach the standard. He's essentially trying to nullify fair use because he was insulted, and that's just not how this works. If my goal were purely to insult and belittle someone using their own works against them, and if it meets the standard of fair use, that's where it ends. Period. If it's fair use, then it's fair use. He even claims in one of his videos that he's not abusing the DMCA, but that we're all abusing fair use. David, there's no such thing as abusing fair use. Something either is or isn't fair use, and being insulting, even extremely so, does not nullify fair use. The very fact he's trying to throw fair use out the window is a clear sign that he never actually considered it in the first place. The one single thing he considered about fair use was it to be a nuisance to his lawsuit, and he's desperately grasping at straws to not even have to argue on the merits of fair use, because he knows he will lose outright on all counts. Now, in case this all wasn't bad enough, David Stebbins outright admits that getting a default judgment in a copyright infringement case is a tactic that can be used, admitting he's abusing the system. In the Sophie and P case, he had dismissed the corporate defendants because they were getting in his way. He did this in such a way as to be able to sue them again later on, which the judge called blatant gamesmanship, so the judge recognizes that he's trying to abuse the system. The corpos are currently trying to intervene in a lawsuit though, which is something that can be done if they have an interest in how this case turns out, which they do, as they may be affected by the outcome. Mr. Stebbins got upset at this, as they were delaying the default judgment he thought he was on the verge of getting, as the three defendants can't afford legal representation. While this is happening, he makes a post on Reddit giving advice to women who are victims of revenge porn. Just sue the people who engage in revenge porn for copyright infringement, as it's very expensive to defend such a case and easy to get a default judgment. So he's just out here, blatantly admitting that this is a fucking tactic of his. He got his shit stomped numerous times in his past cases by companies that can't afford lawyers to utterly demolish his ridiculous claims. But now he's picking softer targets, people he knows can't fight back, so he could get an easy victory. This is life ruination level shit here, all because he's a greedy fucking cunt. This is absolutely beyond the pale. This is one of the most malicious acts I've ever seen in my life. He doesn't care whose life he ruins, he's gonna fucking do it if he can get $1 out of it. And now you see what I mean when I say he inflicts himself upon others. This utterly malicious, spiteful, degenerate, fly-eating, mold-drinking, dad-stabbing, corpulent, fat fucking cunt wants a free ride through life, and he's willing to cause no limit of undue stress or burden upon whoever he fucking can to do it. Now, as I said, the corporate lawyers are making some really good fucking arguments against this accidental stream, but this isn't a surefire victory. The judge hasn't actually granted them the intervention yet, and it's possible he might deny it for some reason. They're just making an argument for it, while Stebbins has a shit fit at them in response. Even if the corporates do win this, that only affects the accidental stream, and not everything else. David is getting desperate now, as he's actually started begging the judge to just let him win everything. But again, we can't take this as a sure sign that he's going to lose on this issue. Now, David has only got one single card, and he's going to play it as much as humanly possible, because he thinks it helps his case as far as his public reputation goes, and that card is claiming incessantly that he is not the villain in all of this. He'll credit anyone he can that he is the victim, in one way or another, either because he doesn't like a video game, or because of a massive hate campaign that he's being harassed, doxxed, DDoS, his computer infected with viruses, and hacked, that everyone he's DMCAing and trying to sue are conspiring to ruin his YouTube career out of pure malice, spite, and hatred, and there's no other reason for anyone to be saying or doing the things they are. He takes no responsibility for his own actions. Everyone else is at fault. Everyone else are the ones in the wrong. But Acer? Nah, he's innocent of all wrongdoing. Now let me dismantle this bullshit piece by bloody piece. First and foremost is his doxing claim. Now I did mention this at the very start of the video as a disclaimer, as doxing is off-putting to a lot of people, and I do use his real name in this video quite a bit. However, Acerthorn self-doxed himself twice. First through his guru page, on which he offered both paralegal services as well as graphic design of YouTube thumbnails. He had used his real name and address on this account, and he used examples of his own videos, even saying that he does his own for his YouTube channel. He had additionally mentioned this piece of information in his video defending digital homicide. However, he has since cut that segment out of the video once he realized people were pointing out he doxed himself. After all, he couldn't continue complaining about doxing when he has put his own information out there first. He seems to be ignoring this fact in order to still accuse everyone of doxing him. Additionally, through his lawsuit with Sophie and P, he further doxed himself completely by including his home address and again connecting the name David Stebbins to Acerthorn. This is a case where it's impossible for anyone to dox him because he's already fully doxed himself through his sheer incompetence and stupidity. Additionally, for someone who cries incessantly about being doxed, he has no qualms about doxing anyone else. He doxed a guy who ran that wrestling fan forum. He put out a bounty of $100 to dox Initiate Cookie for the crime of laughing at him on the internet. And worse yet, he uses the court system to dox the people he's suing as well, including posting their full addresses in these public court documents, which isn't necessary. I mentioned it earlier, but he's also denying Skibbity his own rights to post his side of their debate stream too. And Acerthorn even says Skibbity can sue him to be recognized as co-author, but he need to reveal his personal information and no longer be anonymous on the internet to do so, which is absolutely scummy. This is absolutely an abuse of the system. He knows it's not worth it for anyone to actually sue him over co-authorship of that stream, so he's going to false DMC it down, knowing he won't have to face any consequences for his blatant and outright abuse. He's just an utter cunt in every conceivable way. He's done it to numerous people at this point between both cases, and he'd absolutely do it to the rest of us if he had even a single piece of our personal information, and I don't doubt for a second that he has looked for it. David Stebbins, I name thee hypocrite. Another point to note is that he has an extremely broad definition of what doxing is. Just after the Discord debate, he had claimed a video had been shared that had doxed him. This was in fact the accidental stream. However, his face was already out there, as he has the poor sense to show the disgusting, gelatinous, flabby, misshapen visage that is his face. Additionally, he seems to consider looking at his own guru page and court documents to be doxing as well. As for harassment, he also has an extremely broad definition of harassment. Remember, harassment is continued unwanted contact, and yet, Mr. Stebbins claims that people in my Discord server making jokes about him is harassment. Not towards him, as he wasn't there on his main account, but on a spy account that we didn't know about. So no one making jokes about him in the server could have known he was there. It seems as though he was there specifically out of some weird obsessive nature to know when people are making fun of him amongst themselves. Further, he considers any video to be talking about him negatively to be harassment. I've already showed examples of this. The live streams covering his shitty videos. We had said insulting things about him, and I guess because he doesn't like that, that constitutes harassment. That's not how it works, David. It seems this multi-chin butterball turkey fuck considers anything negative about him to be harassment, whether he's directly receiving it or not. I don't know what he's referring to exactly when it comes to the computer virus claim or the DDoS, but I have to assume it was just him being stupid on the internet, and maybe just general internet issues respectively. This relates to the next point about hacking as well. See, he got both his YouTube and Twitter accounts hacked, a couple weeks apart from each other. Naturally, he blamed all of us he's suing for the hacking. Thing is, the hacker turned both accounts into crypto scam bots while he had control of David's accounts. If someone had hacked him just to fuck with him, why would they do the most boring fucking thing in the world and hand it over to crypto scammers? If anything, if he was hacked by someone trying to troll him, they'd do whatever they could to make him look bad. Find all the private stuff on these accounts and make them public. Make the private stream public, and other such things to get at him. But David has this weird fixation with those of us he dislikes, and blames us for everything bad that happens to him as a result. What likely actually happened is he saw one of those "I'll give you 20,000 Bitcoin" scams and fell for it. Twice. Acerthorn is not a smart person. Just to show how far he will stretch shit too, he claims the stress he's under from all of this caused him to get pneumonia. A fucking lung infection. Stress does not cause this. Not in the slightest. Stress can weaken the immune system a bit, but would not fucking cause pneumonia. It most certainly wouldn't cause a level of pneumonia that requires a fucking surgery, which is a rarity in on itself. It's just Stebbins once again finding a way to blame everyone else for his problems. No, it's not the fact that he lives in a fucking mold pit of a house, lives in squalor, and drinks out of a ceramic cup that has fucking mold growing on it. Just think about that for a second. A ceramic fucking cup with disgusting black mold growing on it. That broom in his background is clearly there for decoration and fucking nothing else. Naturally, he doesn't consider the stress he's putting on everyone he's suing for frivolous bullshit either. As you could see, he likes to frequently claim this is all because he doesn't like New Vegas. But wait, I thought this was all because Sophian P was the puppet master who brought me in as a hired gun to harass Mr. Stebbins. Which one is it, Acerthorn? Either way, this is another claim he likes to make a lot, because it's all he's got. Creetosis is just harassing me because I don't like Fallout New Vegas. Except that's not true and he knows it. This once again relates to him being wrong about shit and refusing to admit it. I don't care what people do or don't like, as it doesn't impact my life in the slightest. I am, however, a critic on the internet, and when people say blatantly untrue things in their videos, I'm going to call them out for it. If you don't like Lord of the Rings, I don't really care. If you don't like Lord of the Rings because it's got too many gunfights, then I'm going to start calling out your bullshit. David, unable to accept that he got stuff wrong about the game, has to make it into an issue of me doing all of this just because he doesn't like the same game that I do. He fails to realize that if this were truly the case, that means I treat everyone like shit that doesn't like the game, and with a planet full of billions of people in a game that only sold several million copies, that's a lot of people for me to wage a hate campaign against for not liking a video game. As usual with Acerthorn, reality isn't comfortable, so he must invent absurd fiction to make up for or outright ignore his own shortcomings. As for David being the victim in this whole situation, you've had an entire video proving that wrong. At least for the most part. Yeah, Initiative Cookie did fuck with Acer and he's a victim of that person or group's actions. However, it doesn't extend to lawsuit territory, and those actions certainly don't reflect upon the rest of us involved. As for Bibby Fazy, that was clearly a troll who saw an opportunity to fuck with someone who would give a reaction. Bibby fucked, and David reacted. The worst crimes the rest of us are responsible for are criticizing him, or saying insulting things about him, because he does dumb things. Shock, terror, how will he ever survive? Some of us have even tried giving him genuine advice. That is the story of David Stebbins so far. He's a hateful, malicious, spiteful, corpulent, degenerate little goblinoid who sues everyone he thinks he can because he thinks it's his golden ticket to an easy life. He refuses to take responsibility for anything he does and blames everyone else for his problems. He's likely in actual physical danger to anyone he dislikes. He seeks to abuse any system he can to inflict misery and burden upon those he dislikes. He lies about everything constantly to make himself seem like the victim, and to make it seem like the whole world is against him. He seeks total destruction of his critics and anyone who insults him online, and just all around, he's nothing more than a loathsome cunt. I genuinely can't wait for this shit to be over, so I don't have to deal with his inane stupidity any longer, and so I don't have to think about him ever again. He, however, has a bizarre fixation on me, seething for 2.5 months over our coverage of his videos, ranting about me almost daily to Skibbity prior to their debate. It seems as though I'll live in his head rent-free forever. Fuck you, David Stebbins. Eat shit, cunt.